Welcome, everybody. It's your boy, the Versace Stoner. We're here with another episode of VSW. And today we got a very special guest. Your homie, the Gnomie Gabby Forza.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Very. We just got through personally seeing you wrestle twice in Maine. Very impressive. Nice debut out there against Saber Everett. But we're gonna backtrack a little bit. When did you get into wrestling?
Wrestling, like training wise,
Yeah.
training, I started October 2022.
Okay. So you got about started training about a year ago, a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and what kind of got you there? Like, what did you like grow up watching wrestling? Is this been like a passion?
So, funny enough, I kind of fell into wrestling as an adult because of my job. I'm a personal trainer and I train a lot of wrestlers at Stoked Athletics. And so I started going to a lot of indie shows in like 2019, started with Creative Pro. It was my first indie show ever, and I just fell in love with it. I was like, "This is so cool! This is so fun!" And I was so like blown away by the wrestlers, like Chris Statlander, Aaron Bork, BSK, and Shook Crew. Back then, like they were really exciting on the indies. And my now fiance, Bear Bronson, when he was Bear Country. So I was a big fan of all of them. And then I started training them as a personal trainer at my job and became friends with them, obviously. And just throughout the years and going to all their shows, I got to know them better and not learned wrestling, but I just got more into it. As a kid, I watched WWE growing up, like pretty much everyone, but my favorite wrestler was Undertaker always. And we had my mom was really strict, and we had to stop watching wrestling in my house because my brother broke his arm doing an elbow drop off a slide at the park, and she said we were too impressionable to keep watching wrestling. So that's a pretty funny story. But
Had my
my
kid
whole yeah,
taken away in my childhood from of then and then attitude ever forget about it was just like and all around. When the school calls and says, your son's going around, going suck it, we have to like it's like no more wrestling in the house. So
yeah, that's funny.
uh, yeah, and to backtrack a little bit, 2019, I started getting, I grew up watching wrestling. I grew up, the Hogan era watching it, Bret Hart and all that. And then I stopped maybe 2003-ish. And I got
Okay.
back in like 2017. And it actually came through the indie scene. Seeing actually a show, I went with a friend, and we saw a local show. And it just was something that I hadn't seen since a kid. And the local shows, honestly, as a kid, were totally different. They were bringing in, ex-WWE guys, and then there was a couple of unknown guys, but
Mhm.
nobody really had, their persona. Nobody that I knew, anyways, at the time.
Right.
Today, everybody has their kind of, well, social media helps too, but everybody kind of has, merch, this, that, following. Back then, I didn't know any of the guys. I just knew who they were bringing in. Like I remember seeing shows with like Honky Tonk Man and stuff like that. Warlord. They were bringing guys. But when I got back into 17, the indie scene was totally different. And
Mhm.
then started, to branch out a little bit, and I got into, promotions like Beyond, where I actually did see Bear Country, for the first time. And that show there actually was probably the one that really drove me to the indie. I saw a lot of actually people you just mentioned, Chris Statlander. You had, Bear Country. It was their Please Come Back show, 2019, right before the pandemic. And you know, it got me really excited because the cool thing that was happening that I was noticing is the people that were on the indie scene were soon, on major TV. You already had MJF, coming through and in AEW, and you got to see these guys locally, so it got very personal, like different than watching WWE or going to a big show.
Mhm. I love that.
So you're training these guys and girls in the gym, and they just what do you just like? How do I get into this? So you hop into the school, and you went to Creative Pro. I take it.
Yes.
Great school.
Where
I great.
all of yeah, all of those people like that are obviously names now, like Max Caster, Chris Statlander, Bronson, and a few more, but it's just those were the people that I knew like from my first cap show. Like they just like just watching the show, like I still remember the matches they had. Like it was that like impressionable to me. So they just blew me away, and I was like, I'm never missing a cap show. So I've gone to every cap show since that one in October 2019 as a fan. And just every time I'd go to a cap show, it would, like you said, like more and more personable. Like obviously I was meeting more of them, getting to know a lot more of them, but then the ones I didn't know, I was just like, yo, you're amazing. Like it's so cool to see them grow like show to show and like the stories and things like that. So I just like got really into it. My whole wardrobe was like indie wrestler shirts. So um it's really funny that I just I thought to try it. I thought I'd try it out. And I thought that before I started dating my fiance. So a lot of people now think we met in wrestling, but we actually met before I tried, or yeah, even thought I could be a wrestler. So that's kind of a funny story.
Cool. Um, and like I said, just the name alone, I remember that match. I believe they like I said, they were like the fan favorites, and they actually had a little like thing with came out with Slade and um, who I remember at the Beyond shows, when the pandemic ended. That was, a big thing that happened right after 2019. I don't know, about where you were, but out here, everything was shut down. 2020, no more schools.
Yeah.
Students had no place to go. How did
Yeah.
that affect you? Like, as a fan, doing what you were doing, just how did that, how did you overcome that?
Yeah. So I think I started thinking about wrestling and like maybe I could do it in probably 2020. But I was working towards something at the time, and just like everyone else, like when you're working towards something and it stops abruptly, you just don't know what to do with yourself. Um, so the past 10 years, as ever since I turned 18, when I grew up, I was playing tackle football as a female on like boys teams. And for me growing up, that was not difficult, but I was treated differently for it because it wasn't normal at the time. I think now it's a little more accepting, but that was just kind of my path. It was a sport I fell in love with as a kid. And then fast forward to turning 18 and trying out for a professional women's tackle football team. I've pursued that the past 10 years, became an All American linebacker, two-time national champion linebacker. And this past year, I actually won my second championship as a linebacker while doing wrestling. So that
Oh,
was awful on my body, but I'm very proud of myself for getting through that because it was really, really hard. And I don't think anyone should do that.
most of the wrestlers did the football first, then went to wrestling, not both at the same time.
Yeah. So I
That's
just
an,
I thought after putting my whole life into football and trying to become the best football player I could be for most of my adult life, I in 2020 there was supposed to be my second time trying out for the national women's tackle football team. So like Team USA, it's a branch of the Olympics because my goal was to be an Olympic gold medalist. So that's what I was training for in 2020. And then it got canceled because of COVID. And I was devastated. And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. That was my plan. I spent years preparing for that. And then it got taken away. And then I got hit by a Mack truck. So that was just a, I dodged COVID and then I got hit by a Mack truck. So I thought now that I've overcome all of the injuries that came with that, and I miraculously returned to football, thanks to successful surgeries and just resilience. Now I'm doing wrestling, which is also insane.
Are we you on foot?
um, I broke both my legs in that accident, and I couldn't walk for a year.
No, what I'm saying was, were you driving or were you like walking up
Oh, oh,
that?
I was driving my Volkswagen Jetta. Great car, kept me alive, so I can shout out that vehicle for keeping me alive. But yeah, that
Yeah,
happened.
that's scary stuff though. And again, overcoming all of that and still, like I said, we just saw you in Maine, very, act. Yeah, I would never know you were in an accident if you didn't tell me. But
Thanks. That
at
means
the
a
same
lot.
so the recovery time and all of that, it took time. Um, so after that is when basically, when you recover from that, that's like kind of went full force with the wrestling school and put your effort into that.
Yep.
And how was it going to Creative Pro now, like as a student and, now working with these people that you just, fell in love with, a couple of years prior as a fan? How
Hmm.
was
Well, as a fan initially, then I got to know them as people, and I was like, oh, everyone here is so wonderful, so nice, and it just made me want to join Creative Pro anyway. But my journey to that is just it's a story. So I went to an open house because Creative Pro has open houses like I think twice a year. And I went to one in February and I didn't tell anyone. So I saw people that I knew and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "Oh, I just, I thought I'd check it out, see what it's about." And just watching them do a practice, Brian Myers asking, taking questions, answering questions. And I was like, there is no shot I can do this. And I left and I did not go back. And that was February 2022. And I wasn't even cleared to return to football yet. But I was just like, I don't know. If I can't return to football, maybe I'll try wrestling. I don't know. Maybe that would work. Because football, as a linebacker at least, is a high collision sport. Wrestling too, but in a different way. So I just, I was exploring my options as an athlete. Like I didn't see myself retiring from sports yet. So I was like, maybe it's not too late to try something new because Goldberg did it, Kurt Angle did it.
true though? They have, and a lot of wrestlers, overcome a lot of things, and they they just have that resiliency. You see it, on the big screen. You see it on the indie scene too. Even when guys get injured, you know, you watch them on social, you can see their, comeback, and then you see them come, back to the ring. It's like, wow, um,
Inspiring.
it is.
So I left that open house not discouraged, but I was like, I genuinely do not think I would survive a practice of what I just witnessed. Like, I don't think my body could do those things. And then I met my fiance very shortly after. We met at a wrestling show, and it wasn't a cap show. I was with my friends at a different indie show on Long Island, and he recognized me from the cap shows. So he called out my name, and I was like, I didn't know you know my name. That's crazy. And so we hung out the whole show, just watched it together. And then he asked for my phone number. And from there, I wasn't thinking about wrestling as a like me doing it. I was just so excited to be talking to him and dating him in a new relationship that I just didn't think about it for like 6 months. And then 6 months later, we're dating. And I was like, I don't want to step into his world because he's a professional wrestler on TV in AEW. Cap is his place. So I didn't want to like overstep. I really asked him, I was like, do you think it's a good idea? Do you think I'm capable of this stuff? And he was like, I think you'd be great at it, and I think you should try it. So he was kind of the person that brought me to Cap and really taught me everything I know. So I credit him for any, if you want to call success, or just the fact I've picked up wrestling and learned so much. It's all thanks to him.
That's great. And that's just like a great like all around like wrestling story in general, like just a happy story. And yeah, sometimes you need kind of that, encouragement. You just don't think we can do whatever we want to do, whether it be, wrestling, whether it be something else, whatever it is. Um, so now you're in the training, you're learning, you started to do guessing you start to, have matches at Cap.
I debuted in March in a tag team match, and it was really crazy. The reception and like the energy, and even at the time, I was like, I still don't know if this is for me because I was just so scared.
What was
And
mind me
yeah,
asking? What
yeah,
was the match? Mind me asking?
the match itself,
Yeah.
it was myself and Zuleka, another Creative Pro women's student that was also debuting as a wrestler. And then my opponents were Sazzy Boatwright and Nat Castle.
Oh wow.
And Nat, Zuleka, and I were all brand new. So the fact that the match went well and got reactions was really exciting for all of us. We all cried afterward because it was just so overwhelming, and it just went better than anyone really thought it could. Brian Myers told us he's really proud of us, and Tommy Dreamer was at the show. It was Creative Pro USA Dreamland, and Tommy Dreamer was the special guest, and he watched it and he said, "We have something special at Cap." So that really meant a lot, and I'll definitely never forget that. So that was just I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that memory. How everyone was like really proud of us, and I really just I was hooked after that. Then I was sure that I wanted to pursue this year. And the only reason I didn't immediately is because I was in football season. So I was skipping football practice to go to wrestling practice. I felt like a degenerate. And I was like, I can't wait for football to be over so I can just do wrestling. And then I broke my hand playing football, and my team made the playoffs. And I just had to keep playing through it. And then I broke my rib at wrestling. And I just had to keep playing football because my team kept winning in the playoffs. And then we won the championship. And I was like, this was a really crazy few months. And then I finally was able to debut as a singles wrestler. 1 week after that championship game, bunch of injuries, just was so excited to just have wrestling to focus on for a while. And it's been incredible. I've had an amazing rookie year, and it's not even over yet. So
No, I didn't. Like I said, you were very impressionable. First of all, you come out as something that's not ordinary. A lot of women wrestlers have different types. There's not many known. Nobody comes out with. And it's funny. I told my friend, I was like, that reminds me kind of like how you like I started some motion, you handed the gnome, and it kind of reminded me of like an early Chris, boop in the nose, like all of that creativity, flows with the character. And to me, that's what stands out in indie wrestling, and that's what I look for is different, something that isn't the same as everywhere else. There's been a lot of shows I've seen from Jersey to Maine, and I just look for those differences. And even different style of shows. Like I recently saw something like Kill City Cup, where it's like a feature length film of like an hour, but it's wrestling, but it's put together as a movie, and just a lot of cool things. But like I said, you coming out as the gnome, it was like I said, just it just really I think thought good level of pop at that venue, and that was a good sized venue too. A good crowd.
Yeah. That Let's Wrestle has been such a fun surprise because I didn't Maine is so far for me. It's like an 8-hour drive, but it's so worth it every time I go up there. And the wrestling scene there has been so great for me and so great to meet everyone after the shows and meeting like, the little girls that come up to me after and they're like, "You're so strong." And I'm like, "You're so strong." And yeah, gnomes are my life. They've been my life since kind of going back to that story before when I had to stop playing football when I was like 10. I think I was 14 years old and I was playing football for like 6 years already. And I was basically, I made the team in middle school when I tried out, and 24 boys got cut. And it was my first year in the new school. And my coaches were not really good to me. And especially having coaches now like Brian Myers, other trainers, Pat Buck, they're really good at training women. Like if they don't treat women differently, but in football, when you're the only female and it's not normal, you I definitely was treated differently, and I went through a few years of being not bullied, but just kind of harassed for it. And it was a weird thing to go through at that age that I didn't really understand at the time. So it just turned me off from football completely, and I didn't really like school after that. So it was a difficult few years just going through that. And it was because of football, which is something I love, and I didn't want to stop. So being forced to do something or stop, being forced to quit something that you don't want to quit is kind of why I returned to it when I turned 18 and I could pursue it to the best of my ability. And then what I turned to those years that I didn't have football was gnomes. Gnomes
Oh,
were always there for me, and I started collecting them. I felt like anytime I saw one, it was like my little, like, they call it a God wink when like the universe winks at you that like everything's gonna be okay. So whenever I saw a gnome in the wild, I'd be like, all right, everything's gonna be okay. And then that got me through a lot of rough years and rough times. So now I'm very happy to make the gnomes proud in wrestling.
yeah, definitely embracing that. And like I said, it's fun. It's unique and fun. It brings a level of excitement and definitely not expected. I didn't, it wasn't advertised as being known. I didn't really know what to expect, but I was looking forward to the debut match. I always look forward to it, and it is a hike up to Maine, especially that part. That was actually my first Let's Wrestle show, and it was like a 5 hour.
Really?
Yeah. Um,
Wow.
I'm coming from Mass, so it's
Cool.
but I usually do the Yarmouth show, but I was, I had Drake Lovecraft on my show. I was invested in that storyline. I heard about Yarmouth, and there was a few others on the card. I was like, let's get up there. It's a hike, but it was a great time. And when I heard your name, I didn't really know. You have a very Italian name. I didn't know if you were gonna like have an Italian gimmick, if it was
I
gonna
love
be
that.
what it was. I'm Italian too, but like I think literally your last name means like go. So like I've heard like my grandmother back in the day, yell Forza, Forza,
Yeah.
something motivating. I
I
know
love
that.
that.
Um, but yeah, and you like I said, you coming out with an home and just coming out and getting, the crowd was very into it. Ava obviously wasn't, but it did give me a lot of those vibes of other like I said earlier wrestlers that have kind of used the gimmick to get over and just that creative flow that not everybody does possess on the scene. A lot of people just it's not I wouldn't say copycatting. It's just you find something that works, so you kind of just mold yourself around what's working and not necessarily just try your own route and see if that will go. And those are the people, like I said, that stand out, and they stand out in wrestling. And we've mentioned with Maxwell, coming out rapping. Not a lot of people have done that in wrestling. Aaron Rock, another very unique wrestler. There's nobody out there like on the scene. And you're another one now. There's nobody else there like you. You're very unique on the scene. It's very exciting to see that because something brand new birth. Is there anybody on the scene? I mean, you just faced Ava Everett, top contender in women's wrestling. Very notable. Then Germany, then abroad. Is there anybody on the scene now that you're like hungry to wrestle, that you're trying to get in the ring with?
There are a few. Chris Statlander was a big goal of mine, and I got to face her for the first time in ring at a cap show in a 6-man tag. So it was different than a singles, but someday I hope to face her in a singles competition. My other, just like more, realistic indie goals, Lil Mean Kathleen, who I'm facing on Sunday at my first Beyond show, which I'm super excited for, even though, again, it's a tag match, but I'm sure I'll see her again in singles.
Watch you on IWTV.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm so excited for that. And Becca was a goal of mine she was at my debut, and she told me, she's like, I can't wait to wrestle you. So when I get the chance to do that, I will be elated.
That's really like cooking something and made it very unique, made it her own, and skyrocketed.
Yeah, I love her.
Yeah, that, and those are great names, and I can't wait to see any of those matches. And Sunday is going to be a great time, and for any indie wrestling fan, if you can't get out to Worcester, I do recommend tuning into IWTV. You're going to see wrestling like 2 days straight. It's awesome. Festival is one of the greatest things. They bring a lot of promotion to this area that we don't normally get to see.
Right.
And honestly,
very exciting.
Great wrestlers have gotten are in either Beyond or Limitless. Both of them, have come from these two great promotions in New England. I call them the powerhouses because they have the most. I don't like to use the word clout, but they have the most notability. They have the most. You can talk Beyond or Limitless people across the country, and they know exactly what you're talking about. And not that there's not other great promotions in my area. There's a lot, but these are just what I top two. And I love seeing a lot of people strive to get to Beyond or get on to these Limitless shows, and I love seeing when they do because they get on and then they start to get noticed more, and then they start to grow, and they start to get out even further and further into the industry as far as they want to go, really.
Yeah, it's getting to those promotions definitely has gotten more eyes on me. And I don't mean that in like followers or I don't know, but my experience so far in wrestling has been I get an opportunity that I'm like, that's crazy that's happening, because that was my goal for maybe like next year or like 2 years from now. But it just happened earlier than I thought it would. And I just hope to God I'm ready for it, and that all the training I've put in as a wrestler so far has prepared me enough to kill the opportunities I'm getting. And so far, so good. My first wrestling open match was my 4th match ever, which was a crazy experience, but I was so excited to be there that the nerves were overcome. And they had me back the following week, and then 3 more matches after that. So I wrestled on Wrestling Open my first 10 matches. Like 5 of them were Wrestling Open, which is crazy to say because that was on IWTV. So I was just so excited.
And that's kind of what 2020 did for me is with the pandemic, unfortunately, wrestling, but something for me, kind of started, well, it interested me. I'm not sure if it interested anybody, but a lot of promotions that could started doing taping. Beyond was one of them. They started doing masterclass. Limitless was one of them. They started doing the road, and then others started to follow. But it was a great chance for fans to kind of follow along episodically, with their favorite, indie stars and at a relaxed pace. You didn't have to watch it right away. You could kind of go back, you could stop. It wasn't too much to process. They were only doing 4 or 5 matches a week. And it was easy for people like us to cover or to kind of even get into. Fast forward, some of these promotions have started, continue that. While, before it was like uncharted territory, now it is wrestling open every week. Great seeing that, that episodic kind of indie wrestling. It's not something we get to see. Mostly it's monthly. And it's great to see, the stars progress on that kind of weekly basis that sometimes, in a month, a person can change a lot in. But you can kind of see it gradually week by week as they're learning new things and kind of trying it out. And it's totally different experience, especially if you watch it all the time on TV or even go to West. I know a lot of people that go there every week, dedicated. They have such a dedicated fan base. Great to see that in indie, because again, my whole point of the podcast when I first started this was to get more ears and eyes on the independent. I was going to a lot of great shows, but nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew who anybody was. People just weren't getting heard or seen. Maybe unless somebody happened to see or something happened, be at the show. And I started doing the shorts program and started, to interview wrestlers, and some of the videos took off. Some didn't, it all went, what it went. But the whole purpose was, again, was to get more eyes and ears on that whole indie scene. And again, platforms like Wrestling Open help that tremendously because people across the country can know at least what I'm talking about or people that I mentioned. They're like, oh, I've seen them on IWTV. But I'm gonna, about to wrap it up with you. And again, thank you for coming on and taking the time. It's been great. But I like to know and ask, one final question, and just to help everybody. Where can folks find you on social media, and where can they buy merch and all that great stuff?
Oh, my Instagram handle is _Gnomie, Gnomie, and it's the same thing on Twitter. And those are really the main 2 I use to post all my upcoming shows, merch drops, which are on Pro Wrestling Tees only for right now. If you catch me at a show, I'll have like stickers and 8x10. But for t-shirts, for now, it's just all on Pro Wrestling Tees at Gabby Forza.
Awesome.
So that is all of my apps.
Thank you. And I'm gonna just ask one more thing. If anybody's out there that is thinking about, getting in the ring or thinking, do you have any like words of inspiration or like how can they kind of, if they want to get into it?
I actually have had in my short stint so far as a wrestler, I've had a few females come up to me and say they inspired me to try wrestling, which I think is amazing because there's not enough women's wrestling and you never know who will be the next thing. So the fact that more women are just getting in the ring and joining wrestling schools, wherever that may be, I think that's really awesome. And I think women's wrestling deserves better. And we're only going to get better if more people step up to the plate and step into the ring and give it a try because you never know. So women are always a lot stronger than they think they are and capable of way more than you think that you are. So I'd hope anyone that is listening to this tries it if they feel so inclined. I do believe if there's a part of you that thinks you should do something, that's a sign you should go for it. That's all you need.
Great words of inspiration. Thank you so much, Gabby, and can't wait to watch you on IWTV.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I loved it.
And thank you, everybody at home, for watching. VSW, you know what to do. Support indie wrestling. Versace Stoner out.